What's up everyone, Alex here. This is my JRPG shopping guide for 2023. 2023 has been a stellar year for JRPGs, and if you've got some of that sweet holiday gift money, it might be overwhelming to try and sift through what's come out. So in this video, I've compiled a list of JRPGs that came out over the past year, literally the past 12 months, that you'll want to pay attention to. Talking about all these games is a huge undertaking, so here to help me out are 13 YouTube friends who want to tell you about a game that they'll think you'll enjoy. We have a ton of games to cover, so let's just get right into it. We're kicking this list off with one of the year's best JRPGs in Chained Echoes. Seeing the intro and battles hints at its very heavy inspirations from 16-bit classics such as Chrono Trigger. But what cannot be denied is how much Chained Echoes forges its own path by not only introducing a combat system that mimics the unpredictable nature of the battlefield, but also crafting an involved narrative that still got people talking months after they've finished it. And it also helps that its presentation, rounded out by a wonderful soundtrack by Eddie Marianocro, feels fresh thanks to its crisp pixel art and the many wondrous sights it provides. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is one of the year's best JRPGs, and if you're a huge fan of turn-based games, this is one that you simply shouldn't miss.
Hi guys, it's TKN here, and thanks once again to Alex for letting me be a part of this awesome video. Now, when my man came to me asking for a JRPG that released this year that I would recommend, there was never going to be any other choice than Octopath Traveler 2. I've never played the first one, so I don't have the reference to work with, but surely the sequel ironed out near on all issues the first one had. I struggle to think of anything wrong with it, and even when I do, it's the most minor of nitpicks. I adored it from start to finish, from the characters to the stories, the music, the art style, everything was near on flawless. I could not put this game down from the moment I picked it up all the way to the end of my journey. And what pleasantly surprised me with Octopath 2 is how much freedom it gives you. No two players will have a similar journey. It just releases you into the wild to make your own story, and there's so many secrets and mysteries to find in this massive and enrapturing world. What really drew me in for the long haul though was its amazing storytelling. 8 different stories that weave together in varying ways, but it's one of those journeys that rewards the players who pay attention to the minor details. You'll discover intricate and profound world building if you take the time to piece it together. When I first played it, I compared it to the Souls games. It's certainly not as obtuse as FromSoft's works, as there is a clear story direction for all 8 characters, but it's one of those games that will incentivize a player to dig beneath the lore and connect the dots. And if you do that, you'll start to find even more nuggets of information that bring this world to life even more than it initially shows. It really is a fantastic game, one of the best I've played this year, and it's an easy recommendation for JRPG lovers in 2023.
Hey friends, this is Brandon from Just the Gems. Thank you so much to Alex for having me on. This year has been insane for JRPGs. It's almost impossible to get your head around all the goodness. The game I want to talk about is Honkai Star Rail. Now wait. Before you break your finger rage clicking the dislike button, let me assure you, Honkai Star Rail is so much more than just a gacha. You can get a fully enjoyable experience out of this game without paying a dime. In a world where video game price increases are becoming the norm, a AAA RPG experience for free is not something to take lightly. Honkai Star Rail is Anime the RPG. For some of you, that might be encouragement enough and you're already downloading it. But for most of you, you're probably going to need a little more convincing. Honkai Star Rail is a true AAA turn-based RPG experience. It has a rich and vibrant sci-fi world, one that does story right in a way we rarely see in RPGs. The plot truly begins right in the middle of the action, and we're never force-fed a load of exposition to catch us up on the story so far. The game trusts that we're intelligent enough to follow along. Naturally, you play as the Chosen One, a pretty normal-looking person who just happens to have an object of potentially disastrous power stuck inside your body. You're rescued from an alien invasion by the crew of the Astral Express, a cosmic train that travels through the stars, following in the footsteps of an ancient and long-dead god. It's weird. But like good weird. The Astral Express crew are endearing and have a lot of chemistry with each other. There's the stoic and mysterious Dan Heng, who uses a spear in battle. There's March 7th, the girl who was found floating through space in a block of ice with no memory of her past. There's Himiko, the sort of matron of the whole operation. And there's Welt Yang, a guy who seems to know way more than he's willing to let on. Gameplay scratches that turn-based itch so many of us have felt in the era of action RPG Final Fantasies. Combining standard attacks, special moves, and ultimates is the key to mastering the combat system. The ultimates even borrow a page from the Trails series, allowing you to have any character with a charged ultimate jump in at any point, which I love. You can safely ignore the gacha. It's there, it's in the background, but you don't have to use it. And now that it's out on PS5, there's even less of an excuse not to give it a try.
The final chapter in the Atelier Ryza trilogy came out earlier this year, featuring a host of new features, seamless environments that aren't separated by loading screens, and of course, a chance to reunite with Ryza's friends. Atelier Ryza 3, The Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key, is an emotional journey for anyone who has been with her ever since the beginning, and one that takes advantage of your memories and experiences to deliver a fitting finale to one of the most popular Atelier alchemists in the series' decades-long history. Featuring a key system that really changes up its hybrid action gameplay, Ryza 3 is a relatively chill adventure that'll have you alchemizing items and things in order to reveal an incredible send-off to an amazing cast of characters. Rhapsody 2 and 3 have never been released in the West, until the release of Rhapsody Marl Kingdom Chronicles. Rhapsody is a trilogy of turn-based JRPGs that's not only cute, but does something unique that not many developers have tried before: blend video games with musicals. And the resulting games not only embrace the blending of these two seemingly disparate things, but also does it in the best ways possible. Combining an incredible soundtrack with pristine pixel art from the PlayStation era that is one of the most expressive in JRPG history, Rhapsody Marl Kingdom Chronicles will sure to delight you all the way to the trilogy's end.
Hey guys, Somber Gamer here. Just wanted to start off by thanking Alex for having me be a part of this video. I think a JRPG that everyone should play is Star Ocean Second Story R. Ever since this remake got announced, it has been on my radar, and now that I'm finally playing it, I'm happy to say that it has exceeded all of my expectations. I am a huge Square Enix fan, and over the years I have tried to give all their series a chance and have fallen in love with most of them except for Star Ocean. I have tried so many Star Ocean games, but none of them have grabbed my attention like Second Story R has. You start off the game by choosing Reyna or Claude, but it doesn't really matter who you go with because they meet up early on anyway. I don't want to get too far into the story because there are some twists and turns that I think are better experienced by you, the player, than me telling you about it. This is actually a remake of a PlayStation 1 game from 1998. The graphics are absolutely stunning and the characters are all 2D sprites, but they're on 3D backgrounds and it works really well. You'll be fighting monsters, leveling up, and going to towns to buy new equipment. Second Story R feels like a traditional JRPG, but it also managed to somehow feel fresh and new at the same time. This game has aged incredibly well. If you're familiar with the Tales series of games, the combat follows a similar style. You'll see an enemy on the field, walk into them, and get sent into a battlefield where it plays out in real time. You can also switch between any party member while battling to find your favorite style of combat. If you're like me and have wanted to get into the Star Ocean series, I cannot recommend a better place than Second Story R. I am the Somber Gamer, and even I can't be somber while I play this game. Thanks again for having me, Alex, and I hope you guys enjoy the game.
What's going on, everyone? This is Taylor from The Gaming Shelf, and thanks once again, Alex, for having me on your channel to talk about some awesome JRPGs from 2023. And one game that I think is flying under a lot of people's radar that I wanted to talk about today is Silent Hope. Essentially what happens is that there is this giant abyss at the edge of this little town that you're in, and you have to go down there to get to the very bottom to see what evil lies waiting for you. And as you're exploring this dungeon, going further and further, you're collecting seeds for produce, you're getting fodder for the farm animals so they can produce things like milk and eggs, but then you're also getting crafting materials so you can build better weapons and equipment, and you'll also find gear itself, and you'll just be fighting monsters. And there's just a really satisfying loop to it. You'll constantly be going further and further down, fighting bosses, but then there's this risk reward. It's like, okay, do I want to go back up to the surface, cash it all in, get stronger, and then keep going? Or do I want to risk it and just keep going? But if you die, you lose everything. So you have to be really careful. And I don't know what it is, but for me, I just found this ultra satisfying. Like, I love the constant sense of progression in this game. You're just constantly going further, constantly getting stronger, constantly unlocking new cooking recipes, crafting recipes, and there's 7 different character classes to choose from, and you can swap between them at any time, even in the middle of the dungeon if you find kind of the right locations. The class that I spent the most time with was the archer. I just loved the archer's ability to attack at range, and it was super quick, and based on how the rest of the game goes, there's a lot of grouped up enemies. I think this was the best class to go with, but hey, you know what? You have 7 different ones to choose from, so you can pick whichever one you'd like. And for only $40 and a game that's about 20 hours, depending on how good you are at these kinds of games, I think it's a steal. So if you haven't played Silent Hope, definitely give it a try. It's perfect on Nintendo Switch or on your Steam Deck. So thanks once again, Alex, for having me on, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's picks.
I've had some choice things to say about Trinity Trigger in my review, but despite my initial assessment of it, I've come around and can honestly say that I actually enjoyed my time with it. I compared Trinity Trigger to the Secret of Mana remake in another video, and that helped me reflect upon the fact that Trinity Trigger modernizes the classic action JRPG formula while having its roots still firmly planted in the past. If you've ever wanted to play a new action JRPG with up to 3 players, and don't mind that player 1 takes a while to unlock the others, Trinity Trigger is the perfect game for that. Another action JRPG that I really enjoyed this year is Crymachina. Yes, the story sequences in between gameplay overstay its welcome way too often. But what makes up for that is its fantastic streamlined action combat. Now, keep in mind that this isn't a character action game, so its combos aren't as complex as the ones found in those games. However, the presentation makes it feel like you're this powerful force, unleashing devastating blows upon your enemies. And with a customization system that lets you upgrade your Eves in a variety of different ways, it's easy to see why Crymachina's combat will have you coming back for more.
Hey everyone, it's Super Derek, and I'm here to talk about The Legend of Nayuta: Boundless Trails. The Legend of Nayuta: Boundless Trails is a game you've probably overlooked this year, and that's a dang shame because despite bearing the Trails title, you don't actually have to know anything about Trails to fully enjoy everything this game has to offer. This game originally made its debut in Japan way back in 2012, and it's taken 11 long years to finally reach our shores, but let me tell you, it was well worth the wait. Nayuta brings back that classic action RPG feel of the PlayStation 1 era, reminding me of Brave Fencer Musashi, but with an even better camera system in place. It's got that nostalgic vibe, but it's been polished up for modern players. And what really stands out with Nayuta is its gameplay. It's an engaging blend of side-scrolling action RPG elements with a variety of spells and abilities to unlock as you progress. Whether it's Nayuta swinging his sword or casting spells with your fairy companion Noi, the game keeps you on your toes and ensures that there's never a dull moment. And let's talk about the soundtrack. It's a delightful mix of Trails and Zelda vibes, creating an atmosphere that's just begging to be explored. I enjoyed it so much I even went ahead and picked up the collector's edition just to get my hands on that soundtrack. It's that good. The world of Nayuta is filled with diverse continents to explore, treasures to find, and objectives to complete, and the unique ability to control the seasons adds an extra layer of depth to your exploration, changing the layout of stages and the challenges that you'll face. Designed with short bursts of play in mind, Nayuta is perfect for on-the-go nature of the Nintendo Switch. You can dive in, make some progress, and take a break whenever you need to. It's that pick-up-and-play experience that we all love. So if you're looking for an incredibly engaging RPG that you can squeeze into your morning commute to work or on your lunch break, Nayuta is the kind of game you've been looking for.
Hi, I'm Cullen. 2023 has been a great year for games, but I've been working on my backlog. I didn't get into RPGs until the 2010s, so the Baten Kaitos games by Monolith Soft kinda passed me by. The recent HD collection is the first time many will play these games, myself included, so they count as a 2023 release. At their core, these are card game RPGs with a lot of shared DNA between them, even if they are pretty different experiences. You gather cards on your travels and can build a deck with them to use in turn-based combat. The systems are pretty strange, but the deck building is engaging and fun, with the second game even offering a snappier combo system for those with fast reflexes. As a true card RPG, cards are how you interact with every aspect of the world, going as far as to feel like a point-and-click adventure game where the cards are used to solve the puzzles. But while all the combat and story stuff is neat, I think where Baten Kaitos shines the most is in its visuals. Are you seeing this? It should be illegal for games to look this beautiful. The artistry on display for the pre-rendered backgrounds is just simply breathtaking, matched only by the character designs, which are pretty out there and cool. It gives the games an experimental, early 3D vibe you'd only find in the early 2000s.
Look at these dudes looking straight out of Shrek 1!
In an era of remasters and remakes, some of which are oozing with love for the source material out of every pixel, Baten Kaitos HD probably won't stand out. I don't have enough time to truly get into all of the aspects that makes these games special, but if you're into weird games, then I think this is worth a gamble. That's right, the good because weird argument. I mean, in what other game could you put a banana into your inventory for quick healing during battles, just for it to go bad after a certain amount of time in game, and then be usable as a weapon?
Eternights is a game that's captivated JRPG fans thanks to its passionate maker, who wanted to create an awesome action game with social link mechanics. What results is an incredibly ambitious game that's got great characters, an easy to pick up and play combat system, and social link type mechanics that are tied to your individual party members' progression. Eternights does all of this in a way that's not convoluted, making it one of the more approachable games on this list. Dragon Quest Treasures is an action JRPG featuring two of the characters from Dragon Quest XI. What's really cool about this game is the addictive nature of its gameplay loop. You're asked to collect treasures scattered across the land, amassing a fortune that has you upgrading your base and fixing the connections between the neighboring islands in order to find even more loot and treasure. But Dragon Quest Treasures does all of this in such an elegant and easy to understand way that it just so happens to be an excellent game to play while you're on the go and you want to experience Dragon Quest in a bite-sized manner. It's both an addicting distraction and a beefy game to get into, and you can even try out the demo whose saves carry over to the full game.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Santos, and I make deep analysis videos and occasionally help write scripts with Alex on the channel. Recently, I've been digging deep into Fate's Samurai Remnant, so give me a moment to tell you why you should play it as well. For starters, absolutely no knowledge of the Fate universe is necessary. Personally speaking, as a longtime Fate fan, while I can say that going into it with such a deep understanding has increased my enjoyment, the connections I made were largely for fun, rather than anything vital that one must know to enjoy the story. This is essentially a spin-off that does its own thing, making it easy for anyone new to the series to treat it as their first foray. Another reason is that despite being an Omega Force title, this does not adhere to the typical Musou formula. Rather than being plopped in a battlefield with thousands of foes to slay, it is instead a straightforward action RPG with a good balance of combat, exploration, character progression, and story. Each of these elements ping-pong off of each other in a way that creates a natural game loop, keeping each aspect of the experience feeling fresh. If you're in the mood for a solid action RPG or a good introduction into the Fate franchise, you can't go wrong with Fate Samurai Remnant.
Hi, this is Emily from Orbology, and this year has been an amazing one for JRPGs. But the one game that I think some may have overlooked, particularly at the start of this year, is none other than Piece Odyssey. This game is very much a love letter to fans. However, I think there's so much to love about this game, even if you're only familiar with Netflix's recent live action, or are completely unfamiliar with these characters and this franchise as a whole. For example, I thought the new spin that they brought to your traditional turn-based action combat by introducing this cluster mechanic was really innovative, in that you have these various enemy clusters that attack your party from different angles. And it was really cool to see all these characters' specialty moves come to life as a One Piece fan, but I think the animations were done very well to just make the battle system very engaging and a lot of fun to play around with. And while the combat was a lot of fun, it was really the characters and how they wove the story together to make it a little different from the original source material that really kept me engaged throughout my entire playthrough. Now, this game does reference a lot of events that happened in the original source material. However, I thought their approach of using flashbacks and memories while also shaping them into sort of an alternative universe was a very clever way to make this game appeal not only to veteran fans of the franchise, but also be very approachable to newcomers and introducing them to these very interesting characters. If you're a fan of turn-based RPGs that kind of act like comfort food, such as the Dragon Quest series, I think you'll really enjoy your time with Piece Odyssey, with its various rich worlds and very charming characters that you can't help but love. I think the devs hit that sweet spot of providing a very enjoyable experience throughout the story mode and have finally achieved a very satisfying JRPG experience that fans have been asking for so long.
Persona 5 Tactica just came out, but many are already singing its praises. Taking place during the events of Persona 5, Persona 5 Tactica takes the Phantom Thieves to a whole new level of gameplay that adds some fresh mechanics that can only be done in this game's unique tactic-based combat. It's always incredible to see the Phantom Thieves' tried and true gameplay adapted to other genres, and Tactica really shows how malleable this series can be. And best of all, it's another fun excuse to hang out with our favorite Phantom Thieves. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion isn't just a simple remaster. It does so many things that not only enhances the original game, but also rebalances and adds a few features that make the game even more fun when compared to the original. While it still retains some of the weirdness of the PSP version, much of it is improved and still plays extremely well. It's a great game that gives us a glimpse into Zack's past, tying ever so neatly into the main Final Fantasy VII canon, that if you haven't played this yet, I urge you to check out this reunion. And who knows, it might even tie into the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in a big way. I'm cheating by adding Master Detective Archives Raincode into this list, but there is an overlap. From the creator of Danganronpa, Raincode abandons all the high school killing in favor of applying the skills and talents this team has learned with making those games to that of an investigative thriller. And yes, much like in Danganronpa, you're still asked to figure out who the murderers are and ultimately discover the hidden truth behind the game. If you love twists and turns and murders galore, then I think you're gonna enjoy solving the mysteries of Master Detective Archives Raincode.
Hey there everyone, Craftium here. Now, I only recently got into Atelier through the Arland trilogy, so I was incredibly happy to hear that a remake of the Japan-only first game in the series was announced shortly after me getting into it. Now, I'm not usually the sort of person to go for typical cozy games, usually choosing something like this to wind down in the evenings instead, but something about the Atelier series just speaks to me, and Atelier Marie is no different. Ultimately, I just love the vibes, the warm atmosphere, the chill gameplay, and the chibi art style that invokes the look of the original, which you can also get by the way. And it's all just wonderful. One small thing I should point out though is that Atelier Marie is very much core Atelier gameplay with not an awful lot of fluff accompanying it. There's really not much going as far as an overarching plot, with most of the game's story relating to just simple character moments based on who you hire and bring with you to go out exploring. But really that just kind of makes the game perfect to just pick up and play whenever you want. But one of the bigger reasons as to why I'd recommend it is that I think it's a really good entry point to the earlier time limit focused Atelier games. Hearing that the game will have time limits and deadlines can be really stressful for some people, it definitely was for me, but the implementation of it in the Atelier series is really not anywhere near as scary as the concept of it itself. And with the Atelier Marie remake only clocking in at around about 10 hours, it means that your punishment for getting a bad ending really isn't that bad, since you'll be able to get one of those better endings on a much easier New Game Plus playthrough, and it's not going to be much of a commitment. Although, at the end of the day, if you really want, you can just turn it off.
Again, cheating. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line isn't what you'd call a traditional JRPG, but what it really is, especially after you've downloaded all of the game's song DLCs, which I did, is a grand celebration of incredible Square Enix music, spanning several decades. Yes, there are light RPG mechanics, perhaps too light for my own liking, but it's kind of fun to create a dream team of Final Fantasy characters and journey through aural landscapes and create loadouts that'll help you defeat some of the game's more difficult bosses and survive its most challenging songs. Theatrhythm Final Barline is a rhythm game like nothing else out there, and you do well to pick up the premium version so that you can play with a variety of incredible Square Enix music. I don't fancy myself a fan of dungeon crawler JRPGs, but Labyrinth of Galleria, The Moon Society, really hooked me in a big way. What makes Labyrinth of Galleria so good is that it's one of those games that's perfectly suited for short bursts of play, especially if you're playing it on the go. What's more is that building up a massive army of characters, each with different classes, in order to traverse further into a myriad of labyrinths filled with treasures and horrors never gets old. This is one dungeon crawler that I really could get behind, and I think you're gonna love its weird little quirks that help separate it from the other dungeon crawlers out there.
Hey guys, this is Hellfire RPGs. Thanks for having me on board, Alex. I know I say this every year, but 2023 has been a massive year for JRPGs. It is a great time to be alive. Today, I'm going to talk about the latest entry in one of my favorite series of all time, The Legend of Heroes: Trails into Reverie. Reverie is the 10th title in this enormous series and is set months after Trails of Cold Steel 4. To put it simply, the entire game is kind of like a massive thank you to all of the fans who have stuck around for so long. One of my favorite things about Reverie is that its story is split into 3 different paths. First, we have Lloyd Bennings from the SSS, and he's the main protagonist of the Crossbow arc. Then we have Reen Swarzer, the main character from the Cold Steel games. And finally, the mysterious C, whose identity remains a mystery through the early parts of the game. While all 3 of these stories are completely different, they do quite often cross over and eventually they all tie in together. There is also a massive cast of playable characters from all of the previous games in the series, and this really allows you to assemble your dream team of warriors. The one area that makes this game unique, however, is the Reverie Garden. Here, you can train your characters through randomly generated dungeons, unlock daydreams, which are character-focused side quests, and of course, play through a load of minigames which stole hours of my life. Reen can even go on dates with loads of other characters, and best girl Elisa doesn't even care. Give me a hell yeah in the comments if you're on the Reen Elisa train. While Trails into Reverie may not be the best starting point if you want to get into the series, it is an absolute must play if you are a Trails fan. It also got me totally pumped for Trails Through Daybreak, set for release next year.
Hey everybody, it's FemTrooper, and my pick for a 2023 JRPG that I think you should play is most definitely Fire Emblem Engage. It's the Fire Emblem game I always wanted. Let me explain. It's super whimsical and colorful, which is right up my alley. It has a great story involving a ton of characters, and not only are they really fun and interesting, but I really enjoyed gaining party members as I moved along the map. It felt really old school that way, and more like a big adventure instead of just heading out into random battles. I'm still not the best at SRPGs, but there are tons of accessibility features here, so don't be scared even if you aren't too sure about tactical or strategy games. This is super welcoming. Visually, the game is absolutely stunning, and they went for a real in-your-face anime style with the main character having blue and red hair, but honestly, I loved it. I was always excited to see where we went next and which characters I'd meet. The music was fun and your standard Fire Emblem fare, but it works, and I think it's the best one on the Switch. No shade to Three Houses, but it had a different vibe and more of a social link thing going on, so I was way more into this one. This one felt like a grand adventure, and you got that true sense of progression with the story. I remember when I beat it, I felt so accomplished. I mean, some of those battles, they are huge and epic. I can't recommend Fire Emblem Engage enough. It's not just a great strategy RPG, but a great JRPG in general. So thank you again, Alex, for having me on, and hopefully I'll see you over at my channel.
Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name might be a short game, but it finally delivers a kind of closure to Kazuma Kiryu's story that continues all the way into Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Now masquerading as Joryu, Kiryu will need to return to Kamurocho and find a mysterious figure that's trying to reveal his true identity. It's a fantastic game that returns us to the series' action game roots. And best of all, if you beat the game, you get to play a demo of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. How cool is that? Super Mario RPG is a classic, and many years after its original release, Nintendo released a remake that builds on top of the original in so many ways. What's really great about Super Mario RPG, much like this year's Star Ocean: The Second Story R, is its ability as a remake to retain much of the original while still forging a new path that allows both newcomers and veterans alike to find new ways to enjoy the game. Yes, the story is comparatively simple to other JRPGs, and yes, the combat is pretty easy, even made easier with a breezy difficulty, but what can't be denied is how much fun and fulfilling Super Mario RPG is, which is why it's one of the year's must-play JRPGs.
Hello, Chicken Fillets here, and thank you to Alex from Backlog Battle for asking me on to recommend a JRPG that you should play which released in 2023. Now, 2023 has been a stellar year for JRPGs, as you've probably seen from this list. However, I wanted to throw my hat in with The Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. Now, strictly speaking, yes, Trails to Azure isn't a new game as such. However, this is the first time that we have had an official Western release for this title. Now, this is the second release in the Crossbell duology, which follows Lloyd Banning's and the SSS. This masterclass JRPG follows on from the events from Trails from Zero. There is a reason why this is a fan favourite amongst Trails fans. This is one of the strongest stories I have ever played in a JRPG. To mention that the SSS, Lloyd Bannings and the rest of his crew are one of the strongest protagonist groups I have ever played as in a JRPG. As is the likes with all Trails games, the turn-based combat in here is fantastic. Did I mention as well it's got an utterly brilliant soundtrack? No? Well, it does. And don't let the graphical style put you off, because listen, once you get into Crossbell, you'll never want to leave. The Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure is one of my highlights in 2023, and because of this, I really think that you should play this JRPG. Once again, thank you to Alex for having me on this fantastic collaboration. This has been Chicken Fillets, and until next time, chatty bye.
Hi there everybody, this is David over at the channel David Vank, and thank you so much Alex for having me on to discuss what JRPG that you need to play that came out in 2023. Don't get me wrong here, there have been a lot of great games released this year. Sometimes the greats come from much smaller studios, like Sabotage Studio, who created Sea of Stars. If I had a dime for every time that I heard that a game was inspired by Chronicles Trigger, I'd be a rich man. It's always like, hey, remember this great game from the 90s? Well, here's one that's just like it, but worse. Isn't that always the way? Well, thankfully, Sea of Stars seems to buck that trend, and I am here to tell you that it does live up to its hype. All the areas are a masterclass in dungeon design, and the puzzles brought me on back to whenever I was a kid, playing games like Link to the Past and Lufia 2. Then there's the story. You know how like a lot of stories these days, they just get like way too complex? It's like writers are out there circle jerking or something about how much made up jargon and BS they can stuff into their games to make it sound a little bit more fantastical than the next. All that does is just try my patience and piss me off. I want to play a game, not reference an encyclopedia. Well, they did it right here and they kept it simple stupid, while also having me on the edge of my seat. Then, there's that turn-based battle system, where you can swap your characters in and out as you utilize combos together and strategize. I mean, some of those bigger boys out there may have had more money behind them, but this little indie had a lot more heart and soul. Thank you again, Alex, for having me over on your channel, and everybody else out there on the YouTubeverse, have a good day.
And that, my friends, are 2023's must-play JRPGs. I would like to thank all of my YouTube friends for sharing their picks in this video. On behalf of them, I hope you enjoy the games that you pick up on this list. If you do decide to pick up any of these games, or maybe watch a video about it, you'll find this in the pinned comment of this video. And I can't wait to read your comments and reactions and your personal endorsements of some of the games on this list. Post your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.